Welcome to my off-grid adventures. I'm Frank, and I'm glad you're here with me today on this beautiful fall day in Michigan. Today we're going to winterize our RV, and I waited till the very last minute because I like hot showers as long as I can have them in the season. And the weather report says that tonight it's going to freeze. So I waited to the very last day before winterizing my RV. It's something I don't necessarily look forward to every year, but it is doable. I'm recording this video for my own sake because I only do this once a year. So I want to be able to watch this and know which steps I have to take to do it, since I don't remember from 12 months ago how it went last time. I've been using some other videos online to guide me through these steps, but there are a few things that those videos miss. So I'm hoping this is more comprehensive for myself to watch and for you, to make this intimidating process a little bit less intimidating and more doable for you. This is one of those hurdles that keep some people from even getting an RV. They're worried about how they're going to winterize and de-winterize their vehicle. But it is something you can do. You just need to know the steps. You have to have the right tools and all the right supplies to do it. And we're going to cover all that together today. Let's get started. There are 10 steps to winterizing an RV, and these should be accurate for any make and model. We're going to work through this slide one step at a time together. Step 1 is to simply gather your tools and supplies. This is important. I actually missed this step, so I want to make sure that I don't forget it in the future, that there are some things you need to make sure that you have on hand before you set aside your time to do this project. There are 8 tools and supplies that you're going to need to winterize your RV, and I have links to all of these in the description. The first one is actually what I was missing this time. I didn't have RV antifreeze, so I had to make a quick run to Walmart, and thankfully they had plenty of these in stock. And I recommend getting 4 gallons, even though you could do this with 2 or 3. Just in case something goes wrong, you want to be able to finish the project, and it never hurts to have an extra gallon left over for the following year. You're going to need an air compressor, a freshwater tank hose adapter. You'll also need an air compressor blowout plug, a siphon hose, a 1 1/16 inch socket, and that's to remove the anode rod from the water heater. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver, and you'll need a dish basin or some kind of shallow, low-profile bucket to collect some water from the faucet. Step number 2 is to flush the tanks. You need to drain or flush the black water and the gray water tanks, and that might be something you do at a station, but for me, with our off-grid property and a stationary RV, I just have to let these take their time. So this is something to do ahead of time. Give it an hour or so to drain the black and the gray water tanks. I also need to remember to remove the hoses and not just open the valves, because I didn't realize those hoses can get clogged. This was the first time I realized this, so I'm going to have to pay better attention to that all year long. Once the black water and gray water tanks are both emptied, put those caps back on. It also takes some time to drain the fresh water tank, so open that valve or remove the cap in my case and give that plenty of time to drain. And leave that fresh water tank valve open or the cap off for the time being. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. Step number 3 is to clear the water lines. First, turn on the water pump. Then put a dish basin in the sink. I have a foldable one that I like a lot. I'll have a link to that in the description. Then turn on the tap until it sputters between air and water coming out of the faucet. And this will take quite a few minutes, so give it plenty of time until everything is through those lines, and then turn the water pump off. Step number 4 is to empty the low point drains. Open both the hot and the cold low point drains and leave them open for the time being. Then go back inside and open up all of your faucets, and this will allow the air pressure to be lifted, and the water that is within the lines inside the RV will drain out of those 2 low point drains. This is an important step that's easy to miss, but physics is at play here, and you need to have those inside faucets open for the pressure to get lifted so that the rest of the water in the lines can be drained. We're going to come back to these hot and cold low point drains in a moment, so leave the caps off and leave those open for the time being. Step number 5 is to drain the water heater. Open the panel for the water heater and then open the pressure release valve first. Then remove the anode rod. Let it drain, and it will take a couple of minutes for all of that water to drain out of here. It's a good idea to have the hot water heater off for a while so that this isn't too warm. When it's finished draining, store the anode rod in the compartment and stuff a piece of paper towel in the hole where the anode rod was just to keep critters from climbing into it. Step 6 is to blow out the lines with the air compressor. And remember, the low point drains and the freshwater drain should all have their valves open or the caps off. This is where I needed a little extra instruction that wasn't covered in other videos. I only use this air compressor once a year for this project, and this is where I couldn't remember how to use it exactly. First, know that there's a pressure release lever on the back left side. You need to make sure that's turned to the off position so that the tank can build up pressure and do its job. Then plug in the air compressor to power, in my case to the generator, set it to 20 pounds, turn it on, attach the hose to the bottom of the two connectors that are there, those two brass connectors. Attach the blowout adapter to the freshwater tank adapter. And then using 20 pounds of pressure, blow air for about 20 seconds or until water stops coming through the freshwater tank drain. At this time, cap off or shut the valve to the freshwater drain and put the cap back on the inlet. Now let's move to the city water connection and then the black tank connection. Close the inside faucets that were left open earlier when we were trying to let that pressure release so the water could flow through the low point drains. Go in and close those faucets. Attach the blowout adapter to the city water connector. And this is important for me to do, even though I don't use city water ever. I only use the fresh water. This is still something I have to do. So with 20 pounds of pressure, blow air again for about 20 seconds or until the water stops coming through the low point drains. Keep those low point drains open though, and put the cap back on the connector. Repeat this step for the black tank. Again, even if you don't use it, it doesn't hurt to make sure there's no water in there. None came out for me this time, but I still think I should do this every time. I don't use the black tank because we have a dry flush toilet by Labio, so it doesn't require any water and we don't have to deal with the tank. I highly recommend that. And after you flush the water out of that black tank, put the cap back on that connector. Step 7 is to bypass the hot water tank. So go inside your RV, remove the panel that's in front of your hot water tank. For me, this is next to the refrigerator and underneath the oven and stove. Turn the valve to the bypass position so that we don't end up putting antifreeze into the hot water tank, and then put the panel back on. Step 8 is to add antifreeze to your RV. Locate the freshwater intake line on your water pump. For me, it's the line that I have this plastic connector for, but it will look different for you. So make sure you know how the water flows through your water pump, and then replace the intake line with the siphon line. Put the siphon line completely into a gallon of antifreeze. Now you're going to turn on the water pump in a minute and run it just long enough for the pink antifreeze to come out of the low point drains that are still open. But you can waste about a gallon of antifreeze in the time it takes you to run around the RV to turn off the pump. So this is where it's really helpful either to have someone that watches it for you outside, or in my instance this time, I set up a camera that I could access from my phone's app and watch it from inside right next to the control panel for the water pump. And I will need to remember to do that every time because it definitely helped a lot. So once the pink antifreeze starts to come out the low point drains, shut off the water pump, and this is when you can close the valve or cap both of those low point drains. Now go back inside, turn on the pump, go to your kitchen sink, open the cold valve, and wait until pink antifreeze comes through, then shut off the cold and do that for the hot valve. Repeat this step for the bathroom sink. And then also for the shower, opening the hot valve and the cold valve separately until pink antifreeze comes through. If you have a standard toilet, you should also flush the toilet until pink water starts to come through. Again, I don't have one in my case. I use the dry flush toilet by Labio. Now go outside and repeat this step for the outdoor shower, opening the valve for the hot and then the cold separately until pink antifreeze comes through. Head back inside and add about a cup of antifreeze to the kitchen sink to fill the pee drain, then the bathroom sink, and then the shower drain. We're getting there. It's step 9. Now it's time to put the water pump back together. Carefully drain the antifreeze out of the siphon hose so that it falls into the gallon jug. Remove that siphon hose and reattach the freshwater intake line. Step 10 is simply to clean up and put your supplies away, but there are some important things to remember to do here. Again, the air compressor is something that I don't use very often, and it's important to know how this needs to be stored. You shouldn't store this for an entire year under pressure, so you need to use that pressure release valve that's on the back left corner and turn it to the on position, but turn it slowly because there's a lot of pressure here. So just ease it open and then let all of the air release from this, and then close that back up and put it into storage. Thanks for watching this video today. I hope that it makes you more confident about your ability to winterize your RV or to buy an RV so that you know you can winterize it once you get one. If you'd like to see more content about living off-grid in Michigan, please subscribe. We'd love to have you join us. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.